is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. What's going on? Ruel's Running Podcast is a podcast about running, health, family, play, living an example of one on an NSNG lifestyle that is no sugar, no grains. If you don't know NSNG, no sugar, no grains, look up vinnytortorich.com. Hashtag NSNG, baby. So, this podcast is brought to you by abadamstudios.com. Abadamstudios.com is your your one-stop shop for things graphic design, website design, even podcasting. If you are a small business or an individual who is in need of graphic design work, website work, maybe even help getting your podcast produced, go to abadamstudios.com. And let me over at abadamstudios.com be your IT guy, if you will, your web guy, your graphic guy, your design guy. That's me. I'm your design engineer. That's who I am. All right, let's get on with the show. Hey everybody. So this would be the first episode of February 2019. How's everybody doing? Let's start off with what's cooking. I haven't done any interesting cooking lately. I've cooked a few steaks. Nothing fancy, just the way I like it, and that's basically seasoned salt and pepper over a dry cast iron pan. Just medium. And then finishing it off with some Kerrygold butter, more salt, more pepper. Yummy, delicious, awesome. And what else? I did do a batch of bone broth, and I had some prime rib bones in the freezer from the holidays. I stuck that in the Instant Pot along with some chicken bones and nice chunk of beef marrow bone. Threw in some vegetables and a bunch of herbs, and got me some dang tasty bone broth. Yeah. But other than that, on the non-NSNG front, I've done a lot of baking. So it's kind of interesting. The baking that I've done is for thechocolatedozen.com. That's my wife's bake shop. And you might think, well, how does one help operate a bake shop and remain NSNG? And I'll tell you how. Don't eat the cookies. Don't eat the brownies. Everybody else likes to enjoy them, which is wonderful. Brings smiles to their faces. I do like to say that, things that come out of the bake shop are treats. They're not food staples whatsoever in terms of NSNG, in terms of, health, right? But the way I see it is, I'm taking my design abilities to a different level when I participate in the bake shop, and having a lot of fun with doing it. It's pretty neat, and my wife is doing an awesome job running the bake shop. It's a new thing, so see how that goes. If anybody's interested, since I'm talking about what's cooking, what did I cook recently? Well, one of the things I cooked were your basic, sugar cookies, right? What I've learned is you can have sugar cookies and you can have sugar cookies that you could cut out. And I'm not promoting eating sugar cookies, but I'm promoting the art of the sugar cookie. Okay? So what am I talking about? I'm talking about getting just the right recipe so that when you make the batter for the cookie and you roll it out and you get cookie cutters and you cut them, but when you bake them, they don't kind of flatten out and spread out and lose their shape. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the right recipe so that when you cut them out, they bake and pretty much stay the same shape as they were cut out. It's important, right? You don't want to cut out, say, the figure of a gingerbread man or a cookie man, only for it to end up looking like a swollen Michelin man. Anywho, enough of that. But having a lot of fun, experimenting with icing, as sort of the medium and the sugar cookie as the canvas. So, having a lot of fun doing that. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. On the health front, I'm dealing with what's called a strained adductor. My inner thigh, way deep inner thigh, like deep into like where the thigh, the leg bone connects to the hip bone, kind of deep. And it flared up pretty bad to a point where I realized that I gotta get it checked out, because at one point in time, I don't know why I didn't think about it earlier, I thought, what if I have a hernia? And the last thing I want to deal with is some tear in my lower abdomen and pieces of my innards seeping out where it's not supposed to seep out into. So, right when I figured that out, I got to the doctor's office the following day just to have someone with a better sense run some sort of tests on me. Nothing fancy, just basically pay a copay and have a doctor touch my nuts and around my nuts, ask me to cough several times. Pretty good deal. So her, yes, see how I did that? Her, the doctor, I don't know if I mentioned it before on a previous doctor-related chat on the podcast, but I consciously decided on a female doctor, primarily because when it came down to having my nuts checked for whatever reason, I would rather have it be done by the hands of a woman than guy with some hairy knuckles. That's just, my thought process years ago when I signed up for a doctor at this particular clinic. And, I got myself checked out. Seemed okay. No hernia, but a strained adductor. So I got a referral for some physical therapy, and I'll see if I can take advantage of that. In the meantime, I haven't booked it, so I'm actually doing sort of my own therapy at home. Some light exercises to sort of work some stretches and, some ice pack action, and every now and then a little ibuprofen if I feel like I'm flaring up pretty bad. But yeah, that's it. Health-wise, And it's interesting because I'm a couple of weeks away from the Lake Chabot 50K. And I could run, so I could run just fine, but there are times where I'm not running, and for whatever reason I flare up and my hip hurts. And it's when I'm not running and my hips flared up and it's hurting that I feel a level of sort of frustration and misery. So, only time will tell how things go. I do need to stretch out, seriously. I failed at that first attempt a few months back where I said that I was going to regain my flexibility, and I haven't followed through with that, and I'm still lacking severely in a good range of flexibility that I'm familiar with in my younger self. So I got some work to do, and we'll see how it goes. I talked about doing a bunch of trips and whatnot last episode, and what I wanted to talk about was that along these trips, there was a lot of driving down south to Southern Cal and back up to the Bay Area. And I previously mentioned that I was finally able to finish the audiobook Kitchen Confidential. And when I'm out on trips that are kind of, several hours of a drive for travel, and I have the amount of time to actually get into an audiobook, I really, really, really like it. I dig it because it does two things. As you know, one is you sort of, as the listener or the consumer of the audiobook, you learn something, or you become enriched, or you become inspired by the book, assuming it's a book that you like. And I like that, right? Feels good to learn something new. And the other thing about it is the fact that I could sit and take in all of that content means that I have time. I have time to actually just be still, and that time is usually the time when I'm driving. So, it makes me happy for those two reasons. I get to be taken on a journey that the book gets its reader or listener on, and I'm making use of a lot of time that I'm just on the road, picking up this info. And it wasn't just that. I didn't mention, for whatever reason, I didn't mention the other books that I got into, because there was a whole lot of doing nothing but driving. The other book was it was You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, Navy SEAL, and many other things. Ultra athlete, Guinness Book World Record holder kind of guy. He's a pretty interesting story. If you don't know who David Goggins is, you should check out David Goggins online. Find videos, interviews, podcast interviews with David Goggins. Pick up the audiobook. It was new to me when I found it on Audible. But apparently some of my friends in the ultra world had long already knew that the book was out there, and they had already consumed it. So I kind of like that. It's new to me, and I'm kind of like an idiot, and I'm like, wow, have you heard or read? And I'm like, yeah, that's like a month ago. I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm going out bright-eyed. Ooh, wow. Have you heard? Oh my God. So it was one of those books. really inspiring, the world of David Goggins and the lessons that he puts out. Basically, you can come from a place in life where you don't have anything, and it doesn't mean that in life you shouldn't get yours, if that makes any sense, right? You can have a lot of disadvantages, things that are not in your favor in life, and if you just apply yourself, you can get stuff. You can make things happen. You can shut down the naysayers and prove to them, but more importantly to yourself, that you may not be the most talented and you may not be the most gifted, but you work so hard that's why you get what you get. So that's that. And lastly, the other audiobook that I got into and still getting into is The Road to Sparta by Dean Karnazes. I love these types of books because it takes me on a journey. I feel like I'm traveling alongside the author and experiencing new places in the world. That one I'm still finishing up, so I guess I'll talk more about that later. It's pretty cool.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.